didn't know you were really married.
She just got back from Reno.
Oh, then you must be loaded.
No, mine was one of those divorces you don't read about. The wife finished second.
Greetings, guest. Welcome to the Patriarchy, where we explore cinema classics fueled by predictive Hollywood programming and unpack how our favorite characters in cinema got egg all over their faces. I am your commentator, Dom, and tonight we're unpacking How to Marry a Millionaire.
You don't think he's a little old?
Oh, grow up, will you? Men with that much dough are never a little old.
We oftentimes romanticize the past, and if one is feeling particularly nostalgic, the easiest thing to do is to turn on the TV and find an old Hollywood picture to watch. A time when all the stars that grace your screen are perfect pinups, and requiring a man to have money wasn't a crime, it was just more or less sensible. How to Marry a Millionaire is one of those films, giving women the playbook on how to get a man with money. Making its big screen debut in 1953, this 20th century Fox film is classified as an American screwball comedy and was directed by Jean Negulesco, written and produced by Nona Lee Johnson, and stars Lauren Bacall as Shotzi, Marilyn Monroe as Paula, and Betty Grable as Loco. This is a wonderfully light film to watch, but today we're going to reflect on one of the major underlying themes from the movie, and that's the battle of the heart versus the head. Is it really that hard to change our old dating habits to attain the life that we want?
Use more brains picking a horse in the third at Belmont than they do picking a husband.
Do they really?
It's your head you've got to use, not your heart.
Before we get into this review, I think it's important to have a good understanding of what America was like in the 1950s. According to the National Archives, the image of the American woman in the 1950s was heavily shaped by popular culture. That is, the ideal suburban housewife who cared for the home and children appeared frequently in women's magazines, in the movies, and on television. And while it's true that the women who entered the workforce during World War II did, for the most part, return to home and family in the following years, during the 1950s, the trend began to turn with women returning to the workplace, and more women were becoming involved in state, local, and federal government service. So in summary, women were still largely dependent on men for provision during this period in history. And the premise of this film is the plot of three young women and their big plans to get this provision by renting an apartment in the city and working together to try and hitch themselves to men with money. And not just any money, but big money. The story centers around Shotzi. She is the brains of the operation and orchestrates the three main components for this scheme to marry a man with millions to work. And that's class dress, class background, class characters.
Class address, class background, class characters. To be specific about it, nothing under 6 figures a year.
The first component of this scheme is location, which is a carefully selected luxury penthouse in Manhattan. Shotzi rents an apartment that she can barely afford in order to place herself and her friends in proximity to wealthy men. Because if they don't see you, you don't exist.
Well, to put it simply, the idea is this. If you had your choice of everybody in the world, which would you rather marry? A rich guy or a poor one?
I think I'd rather marry a rich one.
All right, then, where would you be more likely to meet a rich one? In a walk up on Amsterdam Avenue or in a joint like this?
Well, I should say in a joint like this.
Living in this building and in this neighborhood gives them greater exposure to men with money as they are going about their daily lives. Her and her friends make their way staying in this fancy apartment through selling off their furniture and taking on odd modeling jobs. The second piece of the plot is the talent. Shotzi recruits two other very attractive young women, so their odds of landing a wealthy mate are increased times 3. But it's not just looks that Shotzi was looking for and the talent to pull off this scheme. These women also possess the particular talent and charm to be able to extract resources from men.
Maybe, but she's awful clever with a quarter.
Very important because there are a lot of pretty girls out there, but there is a special art to charming the money out of a man's pockets. Then there's the plan. Once Shotzi had the location and the talent, then it was simply time to implement the plan. Find a wealthy man and marry. How do they do this? First, no wasting time. That means no entertaining men who don't make at least 6 figures. And 2, once she or one of her pals finds a suitable target, then all of their attention goes to him. Be his arm candy, let him show you off because you're the prize, and listen intently, laugh genuinely, charm him, amuse him, and smile.
Well, naturally.
Now, why are they doing this? What's the motive, and why is Shotzi so obsessed in marrying a man with money? Turns out this scheme all stems from Shotzi's trauma. It's mentioned at the start of the film that Shotzi was previously married, and when she first married, she married for love, but ended up swindled by her ex-husband who never did a proper day's work once he locked her down. Shotzi believes that being married is the biggest thing you can do in life and is determined not to make the same mistake twice by using her head when it comes to husband hunting and not her heart. And this is true. Getting married is a big life decision, and attaching yourself to the wrong man can be detrimental not only to your financial status, but to your health, your wealth, and whether or not you stay on the path to hitting all of the goals that you have planned for yourself in life. And that could be starting a family, traveling the world, moving abroad, hitting certain career accomplishments. Whatever your goals are, hitching yourself to the wrong man can derail all of these things, as Shotzi learned from her previous marriage. So Shotzi initially married the wrong man, but was wise enough to end it quickly, course correct, and get her life back on track to hit her particular goal of living an easy and lavish life by attaining wealth through marrying a wealthy spouse. But she falls back into her same patterns in her dealings with Tom. See, she doesn't know that Tom is loaded based on his appearance. She thinks that he's a quote-unquote grease monkey, and like her former husband, assumes that he's poor, but she falls for the guy anyway. And it wasn't just Shotzi, the other women also abandoned the plan as well. Loco ends up falling in love with a cute young forest ranger, and Paula ends up with a swindler. I think he was a crooked accountant or something. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But Loco and Paula perhaps aren't as motivated to stay on track because they don't share the same trauma as Shotzi did from her previous marriage. In fact, they both go on to marry men who aren't that well off at all and have no regrets as far as the audience can tell in doing so. Shotzi almost achieves in her eyes the life that she was hoping for in being the next Mrs. Hanley, who was a known widowed older millionaire. But she gets cold feet and calls off the wedding at the wedding because she has feelings for someone who she believes is poor, and that's Tom. So Shotzi fell into her same old patterns again and was attaching herself to a man for his looks and charm and not necessarily his resources. And if you've seen the film, then you know how it ends. Tom reveals that he actually does have resources, about $200 million worth. So Shotzi, in the end, made out well, but not by using her head, and in pure coincidence by following her heart. This film, in my opinion, kind of sends the wrong message in the end. Marriages don't just survive on love, you have to have resources. Companionship and compatibility and dutiful commitment are all needed as well, but Shotzi had a goal of not putting herself in the position of financial struggle again. That was her goal, and marrying Mr. Hanley was a more certain path to achieve that goal. So did she really learn from her past? She took a gamble with Tom, but as the odds in the film clearly reflect, her outcome is the exception. So my ultimate question for you is, how are you picking your spouse? With your head or with your heart? If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share for more content. Until next time, signing off now, your friend, Dom.